Health warriors, are you tired of starting over again every quarter, before summer, before spring break, before the school year starts, after Christmas, with diets, constantly being frustrated with it because you gained all the weight back? I was exactly there, frustrated, heavier than ever, feeling like I would never crack the code. Then I simplified down to daily habits and put my life and my health and my fat loss and weight loss on autopilot. The results, I am down 60 pounds from my heaviest, and it's almost easy. I stopped fighting the wrong battles. So stick around. I'm going to break down exactly the habits that changed, and some of them are going to surprise you. Who am I? I'm Coach Dan. I'm a former Chinook helicopter pilot who is formally educated in health and human performance exercise science, and I was an athlete. And for years, I could not control my own body fat like a lot of people out there, and the harder I tried, the worse it got. What do most disciplined men do? They do what the dogmatic science and all the crap advice they tell you. More cardio. My degree said 65% of my diet carbs. That is what the standard advice was. Low fat, and they didn't differentiate about all the seed oils and crap fat. Moderate protein. Told me to eat less and push harder. And if I really did that, it would work temporarily for a few months. It would work, but temporarily. But it was ruining my metabolism. It would work long enough for me to get a few photos, and poof, it was like overnight. I would gain the weight back and then some. But I was like, okay, I knew I did it once again, so I'll just try it even harder. And I was just ruining my metabolism and being more frustrated, and it was very confusing. It really confused me because in aviation, when workload increases, we don't try harder. We reduce workload. We use systems. We use checklists. We use autopilot. Not because we're weak, but because humans under stress make worse decisions. That's when it hit me. I was trying to white knuckle fat loss in high stress life like everybody else. That's what everybody's trying to do. I was relying on willpower instead of building systems. In the cockpit, autopilot reduces workload and stress so that you can focus on what matters. So I asked, what would fat loss look like on autopilot? Simplifying the kitchen, stabilizing the blood sugar, structuring meals, removing ultra-processed triggers. Some of this is pretty obvious, but reducing decisions, those bad decisions that you are, reducing friction. When I built habits that ran automatically, everything changed. Cravings dropped, my energy stabilized, fat just came off and stayed off. It didn't seem like constant effort. That's when I realized most men don't need more discipline. They need better systems. Almost Easy Fitness isn't about pushing harder. It's about designing your life so fat loss runs on autopilot. So if you want to make your fat loss journey simple, almost easy, book a call with me. The information's in the description below. I want to work with people who are serious about this. I love helping people who have struggled. And the harder you struggled with the standard advice, the easier it will be for me to coach you. I promise you, because I've been down those roads. Here are my daily habits that put my sustained lower body fat levels on autopilot. Stick around because I have advanced habits and advanced habit tricks that are game changers for those that are in midlife. Okay, number one, you got to wake up early. If you're midlife male, a busy professional, this is the very best time to, what we would say in aviation, get in front of the aircraft. Don't get behind the aircraft, because then you can't control the aircraft. So it's the same with your life. This one thing improves my overall disposition throughout the day. I feel like I'm in control of my day, and I just carry less stress. That reduces cortisol, and that means you're going to store less fat. So you're probably wondering, what does that waking up really have to do with that? Well, there's a bunch of things, and this keystone habit will reduce cortisol, reduce stress, and right there you'll store less fat. It's called a keystone habit. So this one, it's first because it's the most important. A keystone habit is a small routine or action that triggers a chain reaction, creating a domino effect of positive change through various areas of your life. Right? So waking up early means better choices, more consistent training, which is another keystone habit. You're going to have lower impulsivity. You're going to have the lowest cognitive interference. Well, what does that mean? You're going to be able, you don't have other things that you're competing with early in the morning. You have the highest willpower early in the morning because you don't have any decision fatigue at this point. And this is clearly outlined in several books. One is Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it's pretty sound science. The number 2 is hydrate. Very simple. These habits don't take a lot of effort. So 1, sometimes 2 tall glasses of water. I'll even set the glass out the night before next to the sink. So it's a trigger. I'll remember as I'm doing that, going to get my coffee, the thing I want, I'm standing there and there's coffee. Right. And so I see some crazy neurotic things about you have this many ounces for this much body weight, blah, blah, blah. Well, your body's a genius. Your tongue's a genius. However, when you first wake up in the morning, you haven't had anything to drink for hours. And what's really interesting about hydration, and this is a very limited thing, but it is a true thing. People think they're carrying around jugs of water, and they're just constantly drinking water, and you can't drink too much water. I'm here to tell you, you need to hydrate in the morning, but you can drink too much water. Too much water will actually stress your body out, take it out of homeostasis, and it'll cause cortisol. Anything that causes your body to stress out causes cortisol. When you have increased cortisol, you're going to shut down fat loss. And so, yeah, these people drinking around jugs of water, you don't see animals doing that in the wild, right? So add some electrolytes to it. It's also supposed to help with a little bit of hunger. So your body can confuse hunger and thirst, because your body's telling you to eat when it really just wants water. But again, it's just limited. You don't have to drag gallon jugs of water around and constantly doing it and constantly running to the bathroom. You want to default to having a little more than you need. Okay. So habit number 3 is I try to get to work as quickly as possible, and I play music with no words so I can have my own thoughts. And it just kind of gets me in the groove, also reduces stress. I seem to be more productive. And you're like, well, what does that have to do with weight loss? It's in that order for optimizing my morning. Habit number 4, this one, I'm going to get a lot of haters on this one, but I 100% believe this, and do what works for you. You need to design your habits for you. But here's one. I don't get on the scale. This is a hard, fast rule for me. You're like, what? How do you teach people to lose fat without getting on the scale? Well, the scale is a big fat liar. Not a great measurement of your day-to-day, your week-to-week fat loss. We'll give you some information. It will. But here's why it's a hard, fast rule for me. And here's why you should definitely listen to this one about avoiding the scale. I only get on them. Does the scale matter? Do we really care what a number says? Or do we care how our clothes fit and how we look? Like, if I was completely ripped and that scale said 450, I wouldn't give a darn, right? However, it seems to be, and I've been one of those people before that tracked every day, right? And you think your fat loss journey is consistent with your weight loss journey, and it's this nice linear thing. But you're not measuring fat, you're measuring weight. And so what happens is, what's more important? Stepping on that scale to measure, what you weigh, or doing the work? And why this is very important, this avoid the scale thing for me. I only get on the scale at annual doctor visits. Do I measure? I measure in different ways. But what happens is people their motivation, and you have to incorporate psychology in there, is tied to that number. And this is true because some days you get on there and you're like 3 pounds lighter and you're just feeling like, I've been working hard and I'm doing it. However, for whatever reason, you'll be like up a pound after you've been down like 3 pounds and your motivation is low. So I try to manage my psychology as well as my physiology. And so it doesn't matter to me. I know it's going to work. That's the funny thing. If you step back, you're like, your motivation is decreased because the scale didn't say what you wanted it to say. Some days it does, but I don't care. Every day I have the same amount of motivation because am I doing the inputs? Am I doing the work? Am I eating right? Am I staying active? So why would you change doing those things? But people do. The scale will be off and then they won't want to eat right. It doesn't matter what I do. Well, it actually does. So what works, or, for the most part, being active works and eating healthy works. So why would you compromise that by getting on the scale? Much better is measuring yourself. And I do simple things. How do my clothes fit? Am I in double extra large or am I in extra large? Can I get in a large shirt? I have belts. I have belt loops. Even my shoes. I actually went down a shoe size, right? And so the scale for me is 2. And then it's one less thing you got to do. Anytime you want to optimize things, if you can remove it from the system, it's one less thing you got to do. And that's how I've designed everything. So it's about removing friction, removing systems, and doing the things that actually move the needle. And it's not the weight needle. It's the notches on the belt. It's how the clothes fit, right? So that's what's most important. So avoid that scale or consider it. If you are in love with your scale, get on your scale. You think it's telling you information. I had a lady tell me, I have to get on the scale. And so she's like, because I get on the scale because she's cheating a lot. And she's like, she wants to see how far she can cheat. Right. And I have a totally different system. I mean, I cheat with stuff that isn't cheats. And that's for another video. But get on that scale if you want to. She also told me that the new scales measure body fat. Well, yeah, they send an electrical impulse through you. They measure some stuff. That's highly flawed. Those are highly flawed things that are also kind of throwing you off. Again, why would you give yourself information that's going to steal motivation from you doing the inputs? I'll say that again. Why would you do anything that's going to steal your motivation from doing your inputs? Now, on some days, you're going to be more motivated. It's just human nature. So if that's you, do it. If you need your scale, do it. But I would consider pulling that neurotic behavior out. Okay, coffee drink. So I drink basically a bulletproof coffee, a fatty coffee. I have my own version. I put coconut oil in it. You can put MCT oil in it if you don't like coconut oil. Heavy cream. I blend it. I put this stevia drops in it. Actually, I have some right here. I put some of these in here. I like vanilla. Sometimes you can use this kind right here that's just clear if you like the coffee flavor, or chocolate and the coconut go really well together. And I use the liquid stevia because it seems to not have an impact to your insulin response. So I do that. And I wait till 90 minutes. I have my water. And I've gotten to work before. That was early in the list. I had number 5 is a coffee drink. I have my water. I get to work. And then after about 90 minutes of work, I go have my coffee, right? And so the way coffee works is it's a stimulant. You have adenosine that accumulates in your brain the longer you're awake. It binds to receptors and signals you're tired, slow down. Caffeine blocks those receptors, but you haven't even had time to build it up. So that's one reason. Another reason is that about 30 minutes after waking, you have a cortisol spike. Well, cortisol spike, it's going to find some blood sugar, right? And so you're combining stimulants at the same time. And then after that cortisol spike, it kind of goes away. And then why do I do it? It seems like for me that I need less coffee, and it seems to be more effective throughout the day. Another thing to kind of consider with caffeine is about 8 to 10 hours before bed. So for me, like noon, 1 or 2 is my last caffeine. And I try to keep my total intake under 400 milligrams, which is like 3 to 4 cups, 8-ounce cups, because you're trying to protect sleep. And sleep is, you want to optimize sleep. Sleep, all sorts of good things happen when you sleep. You don't want to affect it with too much caffeine too late in the day. Okay, number 6. While I'm brewing up my coffee, I do this exercise that I call kitchen sinks. Why do I call it kitchen sinks? Well, because I'm standing next to the kitchen sink, and I do this really cool trick where I used to have a lot of bad back pain, right? And guess what people don't want to do when they have back pain? They don't want to do body weight squats. Well, for men, that causes all sorts of problems if you're never squatting. You're going to get the old flat butt syndrome, the old man flat butt syndrome. And then when you lose that muscle on your butt and then your legs are tight, it causes back pain, especially if you have weak stomach muscle. So you have a combination of all this stuff. So kitchen sinks allow me to hold onto the kitchen sink because people don't want to do them because their back hurts and they might fall over. So you just hold on, and I do a couple of natural, just slow, where I grab the kitchen sink, I go down, I go up, body weight squats, do 4 or 5 of them and warm up, and then I usually try to do 2 sets of 25 of those before I do them. And honestly, now I still do them every day, but I can do them without holding onto the kitchen sink now, and I couldn't do that before. And so I had a friend who had extremely bad back pain. He actually was a client, and he wanted to lose weight and optimize other areas of his health, but right away he had really bad back pain. And I was like, you need to, he had the old man flat butt syndrome. And I was like, you need to do some body weight squats. He's like, my back is way too painful. And I'm like, well, motion is lotion. You need to get moving. And so I told him what I do with the kitchen sinks. He, to this day, it's a keystone habit for him. He does kitchen sinks, and he said right away it made his back pain go away. So it's a basic movement that you're going to need throughout your life. You're going to need it as you age. And I'm a high school teacher for the next few months after 9 years, and the kids can't even do it. But this is something you should be able to do as an elderly person for just mobility. And I usually do it as I'm waiting for the water to boil in the kettle for the coffee. And the neighbors probably think I'm crazy. I always look through the window, and I'm renting a room from a friend right now, and because I also live in northern Idaho, but I sometimes will see the neighbors going by, and I'm doing these squats, and I'm like, I wonder, do they think I'm nuts? Okay. So number 6 was kitchen sinks. Number 7 is vitamins. And I take these after I have my coffee because the coffee has a bunch of fat in it. So I've done that on purpose. So after I have my coffee, a couple of sips of my coffee, I go downstairs and I make sure I take my vitamins. And with my vitamins, I have them set out. I leave them out so I won't forget. And I'm on autopilot. So now, after I've done it a few times, and I have forgot. So later in the list, I've prioritized these things because later in the list, first things first. Those first things are the most important. But these other things I've wired into my day too. I take my vitamins. I take massive amounts of D vitamin. I'm from Montana. I have a house in northern Idaho. Live in Alaska. I've lived in Fairbanks. And vitamin D they call it a vitamin, but it's also a hormone, and it's the only one you have to get exogenously. Yeah, your body can make it, but only with sunshine. And so that one's super important, and I could go on and on about that. And I actually think I had a little undiagnosed seasonal affect disorder because I would go to flight school in Florida, or not right near Florida, lower Alabama, Fort Rucker, and come up here. And then after I've lived up here for a while and I was like, just not right, go back down there. And it's just like somebody turned the lights on. So I really prioritize in North America, in most places, especially if you're not outside, you should definitely get your levels checked. And I take lots of vitamin D. I also take omega-3s. And that's been unbelievably helpful with joint pain. When I moved last year, I kind of upped my dose of omegas, but all of a sudden I was just feeling old and stiff. And I was like, what's changed? I started getting back on my omega-3s, and it was like, oh, yeah, I came back. Because there is scientific data that supports that. I take B vitamins for energy. I take vitamin A. I take a lot of vitamin. I take iodine. We don't get enough iodine. Every cell in our body has iodine receptors. They add it to the crappy table salt. It's iodized table salt. The only good part about it is probably the iodine in the table salt. It's great for thyroid function and just good for your metabolism. And I take magnesium every day. Very relaxing, keeps the cramps down. All right, number 8. So the first food I eat is I usually wait till noon, and I try to front load as highly nutritious food as possible. And I try not to eat till lunch, but I have another rule that if I can't be productive because I'm thinking about food, I'm going to eat something. But it's going to be highly nutritious. And I always have something around. So I don't go running to KFC like I have in the past because my hungry brain told me it was the healthiest option. Keep healthy options around. Okay, so number 9. Here is this one might not be, it is almost easy. It feels almost easy to me, but it's a new, what I would call super habit. It's kind of a bonus. So what I try to do every day is the first food I eat before I eat anything else is I eat sardines. Right? So high quality sardines. I found these. There's a lot of crappy ones out there. I really like these Wild Planet. You can get them at Costco. They're fairly cheap. You can get 6 of these for like $10. I recently saw them on sale for 6 of these for $7 at Costco. I've seen them in Fred Meyer. They're more expensive. They're in other stores. And I'm going to let you know a secret. The thought of eating sardines as a kid was disgusting. I didn't like fish. I still don't eat probably enough fish, with this exception. I do now. And I've noticed some really cool things with sardines. I mean, if you look into these, there's people that do sardine fasts because there's the perfect amount of protein, tons of omega-3s, tons of perfect fat. You're getting the whole fish. So you're getting everything you need for life. I've actually noticed I've definitely struggled with cramping. People are like, just take more electrolytes. Well, it's not that simple, because if you take too much of one electrolyte, that might cause you to cramp. And I've noticed the coolest thing, that I'm just not cramping very often now that I'm front loading with sardines. And I'm also noticing And these ones actually taste good. They're lightly smoked. And I was forcing myself at first to eat a couple of cans because I know how healthy they are. And then I'm catching myself going for a third can some days, because what this is allowing me to do, well, if you're really hungry, they taste better. And if you eat them first, you should probably eat them first before you eat other food that you really like. So eat these first, and it'll cause you to eat a lot less food. But there's been a ton of studies on these. I won't go into them. I might make a specific video on them at some point. But like everyone knows, well, the word's getting out that fasting is really good for you, but fasting sucks. But there's people that are doing sardine diets and they're mimicking fasting, and it's just boring, but it's easy. You feel great. You just nice, even energy. The protein keeps you from muscle wasting, all these good fats, and then, just all these other micronutrients that you need, and electrolytes, and obviously iodine. So I've been able to also back off on how much vitamin D I'm taking, because there's vitamin D in here. I've been able to back up on my omega-3s. Like basically, I don't have to take my expensive omega-3 supplements now because I eat these. It's like if you eat a couple cans of these a week is a ton, and I'm eating sometimes 2-3 cans a day, and I have incorporated a few fasts or sardine diets that mimic fasting, and it does pull the weight off you, and you feel great. It's just kind of boring, and then I just reward myself a day later with a nice fat steak. But they're very convenient. Have these around. So then all of a sudden you're hungry, you have food, and you do taste better if you're hungry. And then, if you want to treat yourself and you can't do sardines, there's also this very fancy mackerel. This is like $4 a can. This is a little over $1 a can. The mackerel does taste better. This is fancy. And some days I'll have a couple of cans of these and then throw one of these on top. And it's quite delicious. And what the sardines do is reduce food noise. So you hear that about GLP-1s, Ozempic, all these things that they're reducing food noise. Well, if you don't want to give yourself shots and go to the doctor and pay co-pays and all this stuff, why not try this first? And I promise you. So it's like it is a daily habit of mine, and I'm actually continually getting thinner, and my joints actually feel better. So I think it's from this, the high doses of omegas. And I have trauma from being in the military. I had 3 knee surgeries. I was a combatives instructor. I wrestled pretty much my whole life. I actually even wrestled in the Army. All these joint problems, shoulder problems. To be honest with you, I feel great. And I'm in my 50s. My back and my shoulders and my knees and my hips feel better now than they did in my 30s. But I was running all the time, and I was doing all that stuff they tell you to do, and I was stressing myself out. And life is much better this way. These really have your willpower go through the roof as well. So super cool. And all right, here's a bonus habit. It's my favorite habit. I try to walk my dogs every day. I have these standard poodles. They're gorgeous. One's name's Rosie. One's name's Daisy. Daisy has a little bit of golden doodle in her. And they need 2 to 3 brisk walks a day. And their dogs are good for so many reasons. Just petting them reduces cortisol, right? And, walking directly burns fat. Like walking is in the fat burning zone. So I brisk walk with them, and you can do it every day. You can walk every day. Tell me I have to run every day. Yeah, that ain't happening. Tell most people they got to run at all. Most people are like, yeah, that ain't happening. Tell them they'll go for a walk in the park. They'll do it. We have these things on our watch that tell us, hey, stand up. It's been too long, right? Well, the dogs need to go out. So since I've had dogs, and we had cats before that, but since I've had dogs, you know, I get on the couch, so I have more energy at night because I'm not getting too comfortable. You know, a lot of guys want to pass out at night, but I've noticed since I have the dogs, I'm getting up more. I'm having a post dinner short walk, you know, so to get a move in. So I'm just moving more. All right. So hopefully you listen to this list. I do think you should look at your life and, you know, consider doing some of these. The wake up early one, you know, unless your job won't allow it, is a keystone habit. And I actually feel like I'm in control. So, book a call. Hopefully, if you listen to this long and you haven't subscribed, you should probably subscribe. And then if you hit that like button, it's like 3 pounds off the scale that you're not going to get on. So check out a couple other of my videos, and I'm going to just keep posting videos weekly. But good luck, health warriors, on your health and your weight loss journey.